Hello, my name is Michael Ramos, and I have been in the real estate world for, well, my entire life. My family and I have done it all and seen more from real estate sales, construction, and property inspections. And in all this time, what fascinates me the most about this industry are the people and how they changed their dreams into realty success.
This program is brought to you by City Home Inspectors, your one-stop shop for all your home inspection needs.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of From Dreams to Realty Success, where we share inspiring stories of the top achievers in the real estate industry. Today, we have David Hernandez.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Hey, no problem, David. Thank you for coming by. I always say, and probably everybody that watches this is probably getting sick of me saying it, but I know your time is very valuable. This 30 minutes is probably going to cost you a couple $1,000s. So I always do appreciate your time for you guys coming in. I know it's crazy market today for sure.
Thank you.
So David is a realtor with Coldwell Banker, and he's been licensed for 15 years. He's known primarily in his skills with helping buyers, sellers, and primarily investment property. So again, thank you, David, for coming in to speak with us today. We did speak a little bit in the beginning before we started recording. So I kind of wanted to ask about your background. So I know you said you weren't originally from Chicago. Do you want to let us know where you came from and everything like that?
Yeah, so originally we came from Peru. I got here when I was 13, didn't speak English much. And then, grew up the rest of the time here, traveled to Spain, I was there for 6 months doing study abroad. Finished college, started, your regular job, and then real estate knocked the door of our family. And then we started getting involved into flips. At that point, I was teaching. I was a college instructor, and I was making more money with real estate. So I stopped teaching, and then the market started going to hell. So that created a struggle because then we started losing some of the properties and had to let go of some stuff, lost a lot of money. And then that's when I became kind of like I got frozen or something happened, and we didn't know what to do, and we had to figure out how to get back, So I started figuring out what it was that I hadn't done right. And testing it with my clients and, sharing information here and there. And then at one point there were two significant events that happened. One, my nephew almost died twice.
Oh, wow.
And that was 2010. And then 2011, I almost died in a car accident myself. And then, after that, I realized that maybe I needed to do something different, And at that point, I had gone through a lot of training, went to the Learning Annex. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but the Learning Annex was there. A lot of trainings, a lot of things designed to make you money, but that was only when the market was on the way up, and then the market went to hell. So there was nothing else that you could do. So then I became obsessed on how to get back what we lost. And like I said, I started, doing it with my clients, and then little by little, figured things out. I was lucky that I had great people that I met throughout the years that were, very, very good at sharing info, like credit info, different loans, different options. So I started putting it together for myself first, and then I did it with my clients, and now I focus on, getting multi-units. Typically now it's 3 to 4. I prefer 4. And that, I feel like that helps my clients in general to get their life in a more financially solid place, because it gets difficult, like just a single family, you pay it out of pocket. If we have a crash like we did a few years ago, you can lose everything. And I did see that. And that's why I became obsessed with like, hey, you know what, do it differently now. Do it this way. Think about, why, and a lot of details, a lot of info, making sure that people think differently.
Okay. So I kind of want to go back a little bit from what you said earlier. I heard you say a lot of like, we lost a lot. We lost. So did you have like a team? Was it your family?
Family. So I do most of my stuff with my brothers and
Mm-hmm.
my parents. Um, and yeah, I guess, I mean, at one point they had the construction company. I was in real estate. We were flipping, it was working. The market crashed. Things went to hell basically. And we had to reinvent yourself. Well, I had to reinvent myself because I froze. Like I didn't know where to go because I had left my jobs teaching at the universities. And then like the market went to hell. So I didn't know, you know, which
Mm-hmm.
direction was the right direction to go to. But yeah, my team was my brothers, and of course with that, you get different contractors, different people that can do different things, and they're to a certain degree part of your team too, and those are people that you kind of have to support and figure out how to help them too.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really interesting how you came from Peru at 13 and then you were able to become a teacher over here, So I mean, what was I know you said that you didn't really speak any English. So what made you decide that you wanted to become a teacher before you got into real estate?
Um. Well, luck, I guess. Initially, I when we got here, I understood a little bit. We learned British English, so it was a Spanish, no, Peruvian. I'm from Peru, so Peruvian teacher with a British accent, which is a double accent. So I
Yeah.
learned that crappy accent, and then when I got here, nobody could understand what I was saying, and I couldn't understand what they were saying because the pronunciation is different. So I started focusing on TV and whatever different things. Over the years, I was lucky enough to, get different people. I got into, I went to UIC. I got in through a talent scholarship because I used to draw, paint, and that's how it got me in. But then I also got hired to be a tutor at my old high school. And I think that's how I started. I started doing that. And then at UIC, they also hired me to do a mentorship for other high school students, kind of like an example because I was, a kid from the city, not a lot of resources, and go from there. And then
Mm-hmm.
as I kept going, initially I was just going to do art, but then things happen, and I'm not a good employee. I'm a terrible employee. I cannot have a boss, especially if your boss is like an idiot. So I'm sorry to say that, but like if you have somebody above you and they're not smarter than you are, I got frustrated. So I realized I cannot go work at a studio for somebody else that maybe is not like like leading. So I decided I need to change careers. I need to go into a different direction. And one thing led to another, and I ended up teaching. I did GED and ESL classes at San Agustin College and the things at
Mm-hmm.
UIC, and that kind of like led me in that direction, but not by choice. It just happened, and then I got lucky that I was also good at it, so I was good at teaching. And then the other part is I get bored easily, so I get distracted easily too.
Mm-hmm.
So my classes were boring because the materials that I had were boring. So I started working, with developing other things just to keep myself entertained, to make sure I didn't start yawning in front of my students.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was lucky enough to have, people above me that gave me flexibility and let me grow. But at the same time, that most of that was done at San Agustin College because I was dealing with adults, and most of them were recent immigrants. They didn't speak much English. They didn't have a lot of money. Um, and then I was also teaching at DePaul, which is a bunch of younger people, maybe more affluent or at least a different situation, so they could afford. DePaul is expensive. Um, so I've seen very different aspects of life, and then that kind of like helped me figure out how to communicate with different age groups because I was young, but I had to teach people that were much older than I was. And then I had to teach people that were not much younger than I was. And I had to figure out how to, you know, get respect and keep them, involved.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I kind of want to know, did any of those teaching skills that you learned from that career, does that help you at all in your job today? Like learning how to like kind of talk to people that don't
Oh
really
yeah,
understand the process?
yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I use that. I use those skills to be able to connect with different people at different levels, and and because also of the fact that I went through the stuff with my family, like we went through hell. Um, I can put all of that together, and the fact that I almost had a car accident, all of that goes into play when I'm talking to people because I'm listening to the way they're thinking, and most of the people I'm talking to are not necessarily the wealthiest people. They're working hard to make that whatever the life happen, and it helps me talk to the older mom, the grandpa that maybe like could be in a bad situation when he retires in 2 years, or those younger people that maybe are going to college getting into crazy debt. So yeah, it helps me one understand where they're at, figure out like what they could do from where they're at now or what they need to fix in order to get ahead, and then put in their minds that they can do way uh, better than whatever they were doing before. But they have to understand money better. They have to understand, how the banks work, how they look at you, what programs are available, and which one of the programs are better designed to get you ahead. For example, if you buy a single family, some people say, oh well, if I can't make the mortgage, I can have somebody like rent my basement or rent the attic or even rent the garage, right? But then those rents, if you have those rents, they don't count. And on top of it, the bank doesn't care for it because that's not part of a legal, situation,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But
It's
if you
not a legal
have
2 unit.
right, it's right. But if you have a legal 4 unit building, um, like that helps you because then that money can count towards your income, and you
Mm-hmm.
can do a lot more with it. So if you're willing to, have somebody in the basement, in the attic, then why not do it in a smart way?
Right.
That's the way I
Yeah.
look at it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, that kind of gets into my next question. I was going to ask about
Sure.
investment property, and like I noticed that like normally every time that you call city home inspectors, we're always it's all I know is oh David's calling it's a 3, 4, 6, 10 unit. It's always a big place. So I kind of want to know what are some of the cons of owning an investment property.
Well, okay, so I don't think I would call them cons. I think it would be just some of the challenges. But for example, in in um, in a rental property, you have obviously other people. They are going to give you problems. You might have, someone that is either a troublemaker or is going through, you know, um, some hardship, and they act out. Um, the other thing is like maybe the previous landlord created some bad habits from the tenants. I'm sorry, and then they might say, well, who are you, or why are like why is my rent going to go up, or why is it that you want to get into my unit or whatever else. And sometimes that's something that we need to address, or the new client is going to have to address. Um, but for the most part, once you develop the strong relationship with your tenants, and everything goes smoothly, and the tenants that are not good for you, you just have to let them go and get somebody else that works properly. Now, cons or other challenges are that you have to pay attention to your money. You have to create a budget. You have to make sure that you understand what's going on with the building. How can you maximize your rents? How to keep it up to make sure your tenants are happy with their nice place. You're keeping up with the grass outside or whatever little details that sometimes you know create a different perspective from the tenant on who you are. Um, but like in general, having the buildings is not going to be simple. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be some work. It might be a lot of work in the beginning, but once you stabilize your situation, then you're fine. The other thing is, like you have everyone trying to do something else. Like especially right now, they're talking about the economy. You have to find a second hustle, a third thing to do to bring in more money. Well, instead of maybe doing Airbnb or Lyft, if you feel that that's too much work and you're like, yeah, that sounded good, but it's a lot of work. Maybe this is a little easier. Maybe it won't bring that flashy money in summertime where that maybe Airbnb can bring you, but it's more stable and it helps you. And now it allows you to save. And that's the key. If you can put yourself in a situation where you can save money, buy the next building,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or if you had the building for a little while and you already have equity, cash out, buy the next building.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something that I'm seeing a lot too with people with the Airbnbs. I mean, with everything you have horror stories.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I'm seeing like there's people that like sign up for an Airbnb and then they turn into a squatter. You know what I mean? That could be an issue. I mean, but even with investment property, like so there's always going to be, I mean, with any investment there's risk. You know what I mean? Yeah. So of course there's going to be one. So I always like to end things like and all these questions in a positive note. So what are some of the pros? What are like the good things about owning investment property?
Oh, so the I think the most important part is that it creates a new financial stream of income that maybe you were not thinking about, right? So
mm-hmm. And how does that work with taxes? So like how does it improve your, like, does it help you with do you get tax breaks for being a landlord or anything like that? Like,
you could. Okay, so there's two different ways of thinking about it, right? Like some people would say, hey, you know what? I want to deduct everything I can and pay as little as I can in taxes. And then, they put every single thing they did. They change a lock, they put it there. They change whatever, they spend money on grass, whatever. You can deduct everything. But if you're trying to get more buildings, by you deducting every single thing, it limits your ability to buy the next building. So you might not want to deduct everything. You want to make sure that the banks see that you are strong, that you are bringing a decent amount of income, that you know how to manage this property, and that it's profitable. If it's not profitable, then they will struggle a little bit more to give you the money. You see, so I know that most people would say, hey, let's save some money, or let's deduct everything and pay less in taxes, but it can work against you.
So that's crazy. So like if you write everything off, the bank takes it as you don't have enough money to take care of it, basically.
Well,
is what you're saying.
There at the end of the day, yes, the whole picture is that whatever you're making with your income plus whatever you're making with the property, that because they are going to go by also the experience that you're having and whatever else, right? So the goal for my clients, I think in general, or for the people I'm working with, is get a few 4-unit buildings and then jump to commercial. That's the move. But in order to get to commercial, yes, there's money available. You can get it, but you still have to put a good chunk of money down. But if you have a relationship that you're building with a bank, let's say any bank, Fifth Third. I don't have a relationship with them, so I'm throwing out a bank that I don't have a relationship. Yeah. So let's say Fifth Third. You do your bank account. All your rents are going in there. They're seeing your account. So at one point they're gonna ask you, like, all this money, what do you want to do with it? And they offer you a CD, an investment account, whatever else. Well, that creates leverage for you because now you can have the conversation and say, hey, you know what? I want to talk to your commercial person and see if I can get a bigger building, because that's really where there's more profit, right? The bigger buildings make the most sense. But if you start from the beginning, people say, oh, you can start from the beginning and do commercial, whatever. Jump to commercial now. Yeah, but you're required to put 25% down payment at least, right? For the most part, if not more. And if you don't have a strong record, then you'll ask for more. So the key is, in my opinion, set everything up now. So get maybe 3 4-unit buildings, run them right, have your numbers from the beginning, make sure they look juicy, they look like they have the money, make sure your bank account looks strong, make sure your taxes look like like the same thing. It all has to match. So when you jump to the commercial loan, because that's really your ultimate goal, when you jump to the commercial loan, you look strong. But that's, it's a process. So it takes some time for you to build that. And of course, in the beginning, the first property, um, if you're gonna live there, then the other thing is when you live in the building, right? If you're living in a building, pay yourself rent. Pay
Mm,
yourself rent, because you're happy paying somebody else, but you're saying, "Oh, no, I'm gonna live rent free." That's not very smart. So
hmm.
if you pay yourself rent, you force yourself. If you don't have a good habit of saving money, which I know I didn't, right? I was terrible at it. So, but if you now pay yourself, you force yourself to put that money into the bank account. Maybe you don't have to, quote unquote, call it rent, but still put it in an account, and you know that that's the money you've been saving. If you can save
Mm.
more, but don't pay yourself less than whatever you would charge your tenant on the nicer
Interesting.
units. Because
Yeah.
then you cheat
Well,
yourself.
yeah, because then your bank will show, you could show the bank like, hey, I could, when I move out of this one, move to the next one, this is how much I can charge. This is how much I will
Yeah,
charge. So they'll still see that, because once you move to the next property, then they're kind of like, okay, well, how much, like, if you're only paying 500 a month for yourself, or you're not paying at all, that's going to deduct on you. And they're going to be like, hey, this isn't, if you do move, like, what about this, like, this basement unit, you're only charging 500. I don't know if this is a good match. So that makes sense. I never really thought about that. That's interesting. And then it is your money. You're just moving it from your personal to your business. I
exactly.
mean, to your
And
investment.
sometimes
So
it's
that's a really good
yeah,
tip.
sometimes it requires that you trick yourself a little bit. Play
Mm-hmm.
my games with your own mind, because
Mm-hmm.
again, if you don't have the right habit and you know that that's the right thing to do, you have to figure it out. Like in my case, I was terrible before. I had two checking accounts. So I had the money in one checking account that was not connected to my card. So in order for me to make a purchase, I had to move money from one account to the other. So that kind of like stopped me, like
Mm-hmm.
it will force me to stop a little bit, because I was like,
Yeah, because you
I
have
had
to
to
think about it, sign in on your
exactly,
phone.
exactly.
It makes you think a little more. That's a smart idea. That's a good tip for sure. So, my next question I kind of want to get into, um, was, because I heard you say that the ultimate goal is to get into
Mm.
commercial. On average, do you feel like a lot of your customers get to that goal, or does most people just stick with the with the 3 unit, and that's all they do? Do you try to push your clients into keep on going and getting more?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I planted the seed from the beginning also, and tell them from the beginning, you're going to be calling me. I'm not going to be calling you. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to be calling you to tell you, hey, let's go buy the next one. You're going to be on my back
Ready.
telling me, okay, so how do I do this? How do I do that? And that's what happens. They keep saying, now that they get the hang of it, they're like, hey, this is good. I want to keep doing it. And then we start figuring out, okay, what's the next move and what's the next move. And from the beginning, I kind of strategized that. I said, well, if you follow this recipe, basically, this is what you can do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the, there was one time, and that's a long time ago, but I had a client that was super young, um, and we started doing a projection for him. And the projection was, um, like buy a building every now and then and whatever. Like, so we said, okay, we buy 3 4 unit buildings, and then we start jumping to like 8 unit buildings, and then from there maybe 12 or 16, whatever was available. And we were kind of like looking at data from the MLS. So we were looking at what's available now, what's possible, whatever. And by then he was already getting his own property, the first one. So it was just more like projections, on what's next. And we ended up stuck in a Dunkin' Donuts when there was a crazy storm, and it was during that window that we were meeting. So we stayed there longer because we had nothing else to do. We kept running numbers, and I remember with the projection by year 17, he was and that's like I use worst case scenario for everything. So for example, low rents, high vacancy, no increases in rent, but increases in taxes. Like terrible scenario. But by year 17, using the numbers from then, of course, everything changes, but using the numbers from that date, he will be projected to collect over $1 million in rents. And of course, we know that that's higher, and that would be higher because rents still go up and whatever. But even
Right.
worst case
Yeah.
scenario, collecting $1 million in rent 17 years from now, and he was 22 at the time. I was like, dude, and that's really doing not much. That's just buying it, keeping it, and then at one point, securing a property manager, to handle it.
Yeah.
That's it. You do nothing,
Yeah.
and you just keep buying with the money that's coming in. And he had a good job at 22, so it made sense. But something, and you know what? I kicked myself in the butt because I had never gone over a 10-year, and it's over the 10-year when the money starts really going crazy. But I was, projections for myself even. I didn't go, and I'm always saying like, think of the future, but I wasn't thinking far enough for myself. So I'm like, sometimes, you learn the hard way, and sometimes, projecting far out can help you understand, the possibilities, but you have to be, consistent and diligent with the plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then with investment property, what are some of the like key things that you look for or that you should look for when you're looking at an investment property?
The ones I look for would be more space. I don't care so much about the condition. I care more about the space. So if you have more rooms, that makes more sense to me because you can charge more. I also pay attention to, basements, attics, if you can duplex up and down. But then, most of the properties that I'm seeing anyway, they're underperforming because the taxes are, tax. Okay, so there's a difference in taxes in the city, right, or the suburbs. The taxes for the properties that I've been looking at, they're decent, so they could be handled. The north side is very difficult to, get anything that gives you profit. Like you might pay $1 million, but you only make $1,000 at the end of the day. That's not a good deal for me. So I look for no less than 1,500 if possible after you pay everything. So like whatever's left, it should be about 1,500 or more. And if it's more, obviously it's better. But things that I'm looking for is, for example, if they're charging $800 in rent, and you know that the rents are now $1,100 or $1,200, I know that rent is going to increase, but I also know that that requires maybe a little bit more, work on the unit. So you might have to maybe ask one tenant or two to move out so you can fix it up a little bit. And sometimes it's just very simple. Sometimes it can be just paint and shining the floors, and that's it. Sometimes you're required to maybe remove a cabinet or two, but so my concern is more space than anything else, because with space you have more flexibility. You can have smaller units, and if they're super nice, sure, that's fine too. But personally, I look more for the space. But different people think of different things. The other thing is making sure that whoever's buying is comfortable with the area where they're moving into, because not everyone is comfortable with every area. I live in an area that I feel like is good, but I'm sure somebody else in the suburbs might say my area sucks, and somebody else in another place will be like, oh, this area is beautiful. So I don't know. I mean, I feel comfortable. So that's the key, making sure that they're comfortable, that, and that the tenants are, like approachable, because sometimes you have tenants that are not as approachable, and, figuring that out early. You laugh because you remember, huh?
Yeah. So, I don't know if we want to get into that one. No, yeah, it's still in there. But okay, so I'll move on to the next one. Is there any tips or any advice you would want to give out there for any new or future agents that might watch this in the future?
No, because I don't want them to compete with you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but I'm sure that I think having patience and connecting with people and making sure you put yourself in their shoes, understanding. So asking a lot of questions and then projecting. And sometimes that's what we don't do. We don't plan for ourselves, but I'm sure we can plan for somebody else, right? We can always give advice to somebody else, but we don't follow our own advice. Well, anyway, so I think digging a lot. In my case, I feel like when I give advice to my clients, and I explain why, and I explain the benefits of why I'm giving them the advice, and it might be against the majority of other information that they might be seeing, but I'm giving them reasons why. I feel like, once they understand it and they know that they shouldn't act out of fear, fear is sometimes something that stops you from doing a lot of things. Um, like, I think if they educate themselves as much as possible, and if they, talk to as many lenders as possible to understand, what's going on, what's different, and what's possible to make sure you are able to help your clients. I feel like that's important. Like listening to the clients, listening to the team members. Like for example, you guys, like you guys are experts. You know what you're doing. You use technology that is more advanced than like just writing a piece of paper, no pictures. I feel like that's more effective. Even for the negotiation I have, when we talk about repairs, it's seeing the video is not the same as just seeing a note, because I'm like, you cannot really uh, pretend that you don't know what I'm talking about. Here's a video, watch it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's why. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a big thing with city home inspectors that we had to. I mean, like I tell everybody, Baxi, my mother, she's agent for 21 years.
Yeah,
So when we came up with city home inspectors, the goal was that it needed to be as realtor friendly as possible, and it was from a realtor's point of
yeah,
view. What do realtors need?
yeah,
They need quick, they need effective, and they need photos,
yeah. Photos,
photos
visuals.
and
Yeah, yeah,
videos.
yeah,
And then so that was the whole goal. But yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, and then you got to stick with the times. You have to use every tool that you're getting, that you're offered. I mean, the social media is an amazing tool
yes,
that's virtually free. So that's a big thing that everybody should really focus on too.
yeah. I think like the market is hot right now, so there are many people jumping in, and I think that's great. But this cannot continue going up. So at one point it's going to go down, and how many people that jumped in will stick around? Who knows? Because it's a tough business. When the market went down, it was
Yeah.
rough.
Right. Yeah.
And but if you're ready, like in my case, I'm waiting for that. I've been waiting for that since 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't even know, like a long
Hmm.
time ago. Uh,
Yeah, you're ready.
yeah, I've been ready.
Because you've been through it. A lot of the people that are out there running around and selling and buying, the new guys, they're my generation. We were kids during
Right.
that, so, yeah, it hit us. It hit us all really hard. But, when you're 12,
Yeah.
13, you didn't notice how bad it was,
No.
like,
No.
I mean, I could only speak for
Yeah.
myself, but, like I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So even though we lived through it, we didn't go through it,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So if it does happen again, then it'll be a huge wake up call for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah. Hopefully, a lot of the people that are out there are doing it part time, and maybe if they still have a solid job, then don't leave it just yet in case the market turns around, and crashes again. I don't think it's gonna crash, but I think it's
No.
gonna have to take a turn because we had these
Yeah.
fake numbers for too long.
Yeah, it was insane. It was, like I said, there's people that I knew that were year one, um, doing over 20 deals in the first year. It's unheard of. I've been in and out of the real estate game my entire life, so to know that, like, man, like, that
It's
these
awesome.
numbers are insane.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
awesome.
great.
It's awesome.
It was the best time I ever had. Especially for city home inspectors, the amount of inspections we had, it was just astronomical. I miss it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of miss COVID.
Actually, yes. Yeah. But
That's funny.
yeah, I think ultimately, um, I think if you're good at what you do, or you do your best at what you do, and you stay informed, I think we're fine. Just adapt. Adapting is the key to everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I got my last question now. Then, it's a fun one.
Okay.
Besides real estate, is there anything else you're passionate about?
Ooh. So it kind of goes hand in hand. I love talking to people at this point. I think it's in the family, it's in the blood. My mom is definitely a talker. She has a lot of friends and everything. Um, but I think things that I'm trying to go back to is reading a little bit more, making time for myself. I think that's, like that's something that I forget all the time. I need to travel again. Obviously, with COVID, it got restricted. But and I have pets. Lots of nephews. Don't have kids yet. I need to find another victim to. No, I'm kidding.
You got to find a victim.
No, I mean, I think as we get older, things get a little more complicated, and
yeah,
like it's a little tricky. But I think like all my family, my connections. I have a lot of family. I have too much family, so and sometimes you need your own space. But as I connect with people, I hear their stories, and I kind of love that, like connecting, understanding who they are, and then when they ask for advice, it's easier for me to do that. So I don't know. I'm in a place where I like where things are. I feel like I bring a lot to the table to help people out. Um, and I feel like we actually connect because they realize that I'm doing it from the heart. Like I said, if I would have died that day, I wasn't leaving a good legacy. I want to leave a better legacy now, and my focus is doing the best I can, make sure that people can go up. I think like all of the changes that we want require that we put ourselves in a better financial situation, and in order for that to happen, we need to understand money. We need to understand the banks, the financial system, and we need to adapt and not freak out when they throw, like, hey, high prices now for the next few months or years, whatever it is. Don't freak out, because there's always a way out. Like we got used to like all the freebies and all the, like the 3% loan rates, that they were, as they said, historically low, and then people got used to it because we had 10 years of that. That's not sustainable. That's not bringing money to the whole country. And like just adjusting and numbers, math is the key to everything. Math is the key to everything.
That's a universal language right there.
Yeah. So if you do your numbers, you'll be fine, but you have to do your numbers.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah. Great. Well, yeah, this is great. This is a good one. Again, thank you so much, David, for coming out and speaking with us today. If you want to take this time now to like let everybody know what's the best way to contact you, if they want to get some information about investment property or probably hire your services in the future, I'll give you this time to let everybody know now.
Perfect. I think the best way is to connect to hernandezchicago.info. That has all my contacts and numbers and everything else. We have 2 numbers. My personal number, if you want to call me directly, is 773-236-1075. But the other one is the easiest. And then the email, just in case, is david@hernandezchicago.com. But yeah, hernandezchicago.info is the source for every tool that we have and every social media platform that we're in.
Awesome. Well, yeah, again, thank you so much, David Hernandez, for coming out and giving us the time to speak with us today. I really do appreciate it. We got a lot of good information about investment property. So again, yes, thank you for that. This is Dreams of Realty Success. Thank you for everybody that tuned in this week. We are here with David Hernandez. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mike.